Hey guys, another edition of Quarantine with Coaches. Today I got University of Minnesota Duluth OC Chase Vogler. Chase, how we doing?
Doing well. Appreciate you having me on.
Oh, absolutely. You guys doing all right up there with this quarantine?
Yeah, it's been good. It's been weird, but just like everyone else, we're staying inside. Dogs are getting a lot of walks, and trying. I feel like I'm back eating like I was in college with frozen pizzas and pizza rolls and stuff, but trying to stay just normal.
Yeah, you just finished your first year at UMD, right? And I think you had a unique path. Can you talk a little bit about the path you've had in coaching?
Yeah, so I finished playing in 2012 would have been my senior year. So I kind of wanted to keep playing a little bit. So I actually went over to Germany and played. And a big reason why I chose the team I was playing for was they gave me full control of the offense, which was kind of fun to be a player coach as a quarterback from the huddle. Kind of started learning that stuff and kind of just how to attack different coverages and stuff like that. And our quarterback in our system now, when I played, has a lot of freedom and had a lot of freedom. So I learned a lot through playing, but calling plays is kind of a little different of a different animal, which was a lot of fun. So I went to Bielefeld, which is in Northwest Germany. Was there for 7 months, played and coached, and then came back and GA'd at Western Illinois. And I was at Western Illinois for about 3.5 months. I was coaching D-line there under Moose, Brian Munson. And I lived with Ted Schlafly, who was the quarterback before me at Duluth and is the OC at South Dakota now. And that staff was awesome. I was only there for 3 months, but in the business of coaching where it's all about creating connections, that staff is, now two of those guys are at Temple. I know you had Landry on Friday. Jake wasn't on that staff, but Tyler Yelk and Steve Crutchley were. Jake Landry was actually the receiver coach my final 2 years at Duluth. So I'm decently connected with Temple a little bit. A lot of that staff went to South Dakota, and obviously my head coach in college, Bob Nielsen's the head coach at South Dakota. And then from there, I was only there for about 3 months. I got emergency hired at Stout, UW Stout, in August of 14. The O-line and OC at the time, Pat McAvoy, got hired a week before me, so we had 1 week to put together an offense with no prior coordinating experience. So that was a little bit of a learning experience. And I was there for 5 years, 2 as pass game corner quarterbacks, and then 3 as the offense coordinator and quarterbacks. Then got hired back at my alma mater, Duluth, as OC and receivers. So receivers is new for me, and it's been a lot of fun.
Now that Europe experience, that had to be quite a unique experience. What did you learn during that time as a young coach that you still find valuable today?
Yeah, it was a blast. It was different. You could only have 2 Americans on the field at a time, and they had to wear an A on the back of their helmet. So you learned really fast how to attack weaknesses of defenses, and also play to your guys' strengths. We had a German receiver that, couldn't cut at all, but he could run a 4.4. So he ran go balls. And we probably threw about 15 to 20 go balls to him, and we were going to hit 4 of them a game, and that was what he did. We had a guy on the outside that was a 6'3" guy that was a lot smoother, not super fast. So he was kind of our route runner. So I think we just learned, I just learned kind of to play to guys' strengths. And then as you kind of get into the, college levels, you're doing the same stuff. You don't want to ask your slot receiver who's maybe a little quicker, not super fast, to be the go ball guy on the outside. And you don't want to ask your right tackle to do stuff, that he's not good at, and it kind of carries over the same thing. And in Germany, it was a lot more fun doing that way. And, we kept it super simple because half the guys barely spoke English, so you had to kind of figure out ways to communicate and tell them what to do. So we just called pass or run for the O-line. And then I just told everyone what route they should run. And if you wanted to run flood, you literally told everyone you got to go. You got a 10 to 15 yard out. You got an arrow backside. You just run a go. And that's how it went. And so that was fun. And I had a lot of fun over there. And, between traveling, playing football and drinking beer, it was a hell of an experience.
That's awesome. You're in a unique situation now, back at your alma mater, a place you were, I think, a national champion at quarterback, right? And at that point, when you were in college, your OC is now your head coach, right? And so you guys have a long-standing relationship. One when you were a player and he was a coordinator. Now he's your head coach. You're the coordinator. How do you guys navigate that relationship?
Yeah, so it's been really good. Coach Weezy is a guy that I've looked up to for a long time. He's the reason I got into coaching. I spent a lot of time in his office when I was a player, and I was lucky enough to have the same offense coordinator for all 4 of my years. And I was a starting quarterback for 4 of them, so I had a lot of time put in with Coach Weezy and our system, and I was kind of worried when you got hired back. You didn't know kind of how that relationship goes. At Stout, I was the offense coordinator, and we had a defensive head coach. So I was kind of the head coach of the offense, per se. And now come to a spot that this is Coach Weezy's system that he wants to operate, and you can put whatever adjustments you want on it. But he's been awesome, and he's great to work for. He's great to work with. He's super hands off when it comes to game day play calling. He might have, like any head coach, he might have some suggestions here or there, adjusting tempo, whatnot. But game planning, he's obviously there, and he coaches our quarterback. So, we do a lot of check at the line of scrimmage stuff, and he's as good as it gets. He's had a long history of successful quarterbacks through his time at Marietta and Duluth, and he's continued to do that. So he's the quarterback coach in the offensive room, which is awesome, and the guy that kind of runs the show, obviously, on game days from handling the game atmosphere side of things. But our relationship's been great, and he's a guy that, is, like I said, the reason I got into coaching, and hasn't changed since I've been back.
What's the best advice you've received in your coaching career?
Man, there's a lot of advice. I think honestly, and I think every year you're trying to get better at it, is simple is better, less is more. Just per se, it's a battle everyone kind of runs in with. There's so many cool offenses and plays and gimmicks and styles out there. Like, and no one runs the same system, which is kind of crazy when you think of it. That you see all this stuff and wow, it works for them. Let's try to add it. And I learned. People told me that, and I learned, kind of as we went, especially in my time at Stout. I felt like we started with a lot, and by like my last year there, we were running inside zone and just getting good at it, and that's what I kind of found that I'd rather rep something 100 times than rep 100 things once. And that's kind of how it just goes. And Coach Weezy still continues to tell me that, he starts with a story every time I get a little ahead of myself. And, going back to the question you kind of asked, is that's the most advice he kind of gives me now offensively is, hey, just, let's not add all that stuff. Let's take away stuff we didn't run that much, and let's just focus on what we want to be good at. And, here at Duluth, we're similar to you guys at Whitewater. We want to establish the run and be good at that. And, so we got to make sure we get good at inside zone before we move to outside zone, and we got to get good at outside zone before we move to power and stuff like that. So I think just, less is more is a pretty staple in the coaching world.
Sure. Hey, before we let you go here, we're going to do some rapid fire questions, 1 sentence or less. You ready for that?
Yep.
Cool. Hey, best book you've read?
Where Men Win Glory, the Pat Tillman story.
Awesome. Who's your biggest mentor?
In football, I'd say Coach Weezy. Outside of football, I'd say my parents.
What's been this your go-to quarantine meal?
Honestly, probably frozen pizza, Jack's, pepperoni. Once weather gets nicer, we'll be on the grill a little more.
Yeah, Jack's frozen pizza for me as well. If your offense could emulate any offense in history, college or pro, who would it be?
I would say probably the greatest show on turf, the Rams in 99 to 01.
That's crazy.
Mike Martz he had it dialed up, man. He was ahead of his time with moving Marshall Faulk around and stuff, and it's awesome.
I would also say that. I was expecting the 98 Vikings from you, but that's
no. I'm a Packer fan.
There we go.
Yeah.
But I'll finish this last one. Best thing to do in Minnesota?
I would say the best thing to do, no matter what, is golf, man. I'm a big golfer. I like it. I'm not a huge fisher, so I'm usually golfing when I'm not coaching in the summer.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on Quarantine with Coaches today. We had Chase Vogler, UMD, OC.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.